Hello, everyone. I'm Dwayne Bonifer in the Lindsey Wilson College Office of Public Relations, and this is The View from the Hill, the podcast of Lindsey Wilson College. Every week during the academic year, The View from the Hill features conversations with some of the people who help create the dynamic living learning environment that serves the educational needs of every Lindsey Wilson student every day. In this 15th edition of the 2025 View from the Hill podcast, we're going to talk about leadership, specifically with 3 Lindsey Wilson undergraduates who were honored for their leadership, both on campus and in the larger community. For the last 17 years, the Lindsey Wilson community has honored and celebrated leadership that makes a difference both on campus and throughout the region as well. The brainchild of Dean of Students Chris Schmidt and known as the L3 Awards, which stands for Live, Learn, Lead, the annual accolades celebrate the work that a select group of Lindsey Wilson members have demonstrated throughout the school year. This year's L3 Awards were held on April 21st, and they honored 10 Lindsey Wilson students and 1 Lindsey Wilson employee. That was Vice President for Student Services and Enrollment Management, Dean Adams. The top 3 L3 Students Awards were presented this year to Caitlin Higdon, a senior biology and psychophysiology double major from Elizabethtown, Kentucky, Mia Weigel, a senior human services and counseling and psychology double major from Danville, Kentucky, and Reilly Wells, a junior media studies and theater double major from Columbia. During this View from the Hill podcast, we're going to hear from the 3 students who received a top L3 award, beginning with Caitlin Higdon. Senior Caitlin Higdon said that being recognized for her leadership on campus at the end of her Lindsey Wilson career was quite the unexpected honor for her.
It's honestly hard to put into words what this means to me. Getting recognition is never why I do anything. I go about my daily life. I got involved with everything on campus because I enjoyed it. I had fun. And then getting the recognition is just it's hard to put into words. I was so excited to get the first email where it said I was one of the top 10. And then that was enough for me. Just being recognized was enough. And then to get the second email saying that I was being recognized as top 3 was just on the phone with my mom, squealing with excitement, tears running down my face, just absolutely ecstatic.
You said you got involved on campus here at Lindsey Wilson. Is there something about this campus that encourages both involvement and the development of leadership in students?
I think so. My leadership journey has grown tremendously since being at Lindsey. I think it's just the small community feel of campus makes everyone want to be more involved, whether it's with athletics and getting involved with that, or intramurals, or SGA like I'm a part of, or Res Life, or there's so many communities on campus that make it so easy to get involved. They advertise themselves. Your inbox is flooded with a million different things that's going on, and it's the games that are happening, the events that are happening, and it's just, I was so excited to attend all of them, and I think that readily available information and just the excitement for people to show up to the events makes it real easy to want to get involved. And then once you're involved, they don't make it easy for you to back out. It's, oh, hey, you showed up to this event. Well, why don't you come to SAB and help us plan the events? Oh, you enjoy showing up to this SGA event. Why don't you come be a senator? I actually was recruited to be a senator by Evan Smiley just for showing up to a swim meet that I was required to be at. Showed up to the swim meet to swim in the meet, and he was like, hey, we need somebody. Why don't you come do it? And then now here I am, senior class VP, been in SGA for 3 years, went to New York with them. It's hard to get out once you've become involved.
So looking back in your life, who are some individuals, both here at Lindsey Wilson College and off campus, who've been role models for you in terms of becoming a leader?
Yeah, my first role models and my biggest ones were probably my parents. I don't think they really taught necessarily word for word of how to be a leader. They just kind of showed me. My mom is the head of her department, the foreign language department at her school. My dad's a head of all kinds of groups with his software engineering stuff. So they just kind of, and taking on other roles. My dad coached the basketball teams for my school, and my mom got involved with Vacation Bible School. So just they kind of showed, I learned by watching watching pretty much with my parents. So they were my first role models, I believe. Following, once I got to Lindsay, there's so many. Dr. Tapscott and Dr. Greenberg, I think, were big ones for me with being in the honors program. And Dr. Greenberg is a professor as well of psychology, mainly with honors. They really taught me how to be a leader, got me involved with the KHRs and going to presentations, and then getting involved with the club side of honors where we're putting on events and ordering t-shirts and all that kinds of stuff.
In the L3 program, you had the quote by the late poet Maya Angelou, "If you're always trying to be normal, you will never know how amazing you can be." Why did you select that quote? What's the significance of that to you?
Yeah, so I've always been the weirdo. I've always been the odd one out. I get excited over little things. I was a Marvel nerd in high school, and everyone was like, "You're not cool for that. Like, you're a nerd. Like, you like science. You're not cool." And then I had a little bit of, well, like, you know, the cool sports. I was the odd one out. I was swimming. No one, you know, swimming's not a cool sport. It's not basketball. It's not volleyball. I loved it, and that's what was important. So I've always kind of been the oddball out. My senior quote was from Alice in Wonderland, the "Do you suppose you're a wildflower?" And I've always kind of been the odd one out. And so when I found this quote, I was instantly like, that is perfect. That is me. And I think it shows, like, if you try and fit into this box of society, like, you're never going to know who you really are. I think that's where it came from, was you get outside of the society, get outside of what people tell you, because there's so much more that you could be.
As you observe leadership in others, what qualities, what characteristics do you notice when someone is a leader?
The biggest one, in my opinion, is not being up front, not being the line leader, but being back behind to support everybody. Being a shoulder to cry on if they need it, or their biggest supporter, their biggest cheerleader in the background. It's not necessarily being the face of something, which is fun. You know, it's a part of it. It's not a bad part of being a leader, but I think the most important part is what you do behind the scenes and how you support everyone else.
Mia Weigel, who's also a senior, says that the atmosphere of Lindsay Wilson's campus brought out leadership qualities in her that she didn't realize she possessed.
I think this award, it means a lot, because I believe that it means growth for me. Whenever I first stepped onto Lindsay Wilson's campus, I believe I was a completely different person, because I've always been very outspoken, very shy, very reserved. And Lindsay's campus, it feels so tight-knit and so family-like. You just feel comfortable. It's given me an environment to let me be myself and explore and find what my identity, what my values, and stepping into positions where I can help others do that. I believe that it's an opportunity for growth and to help empower and inspire others.
What is it about the campus that encouraged that in you, that helped you develop from coming here as a freshman, a little bit reserved, you said, and now being recognized as one of the top 3 leaders on campus? What's the magic formula, the secret sauce at Lindsay Wilson?
For me, I have to give a lot of recognition to the Bonner Scholars Program, because there are so many amazing people, and there's been some past L3 recipients from within Bonner, and I got to have a personal connection with those individuals, and they built into me of what it means to be vulnerable, to show courage, and to show up every day with respect and dignity, and just in a humble way. And they really inspired me, and they're always there for me, and I always thank them whenever I'm recognized for any form of leadership. But it was for those individuals, and for them, just because sometimes we don't always believe in ourselves, but it takes a village and it takes a family to help support you and build you up and get you to the places where you know that you're meant to be.
Who are some of those individuals in your life, both on campus and off, that have been mentors or influencers when it comes to your leadership development?
I would definitely have to say my mom. She single-handedly raised me. She showed me what it means to be a strong, independent female in a society that we have today, and how to show up for yourself, for your family, and for your community and your neighbors. And I always admire her style of leadership, even though she doesn't even know that she is one. And then I also have my lifelong best friend. We were always inseparable, but she was always the natural leader of us. And whenever we were in school, church, everybody would always look to her and be like, okay, what next? And I always took notes from her quietly and just took in that. But in my time at Lindsay, I would say Yaji Sonnabend and Holly Chauvin, Kayla Young, Macy Welsh, Caroline Hardwick, Emma Mallory, Kristen Shelton. I have so many individuals, but I looked up to a lot of the upperclassmen within Bonner. Those first 2, they really showed me what leadership looked like in a just small but great way.
In the L3 program, you cite a quote by the great Bishop T.D. Jakes: "If you can't figure out your purpose, figure out your passion." for your passion will lead you right into your purpose. What was it about that quote that caused you to select that?
I think being a upcoming graduate, we're always asked, what's after college? What are you going to do next? And I know for me personally, and some for my fellow friends that are graduating as well, it's kind of wherever life takes me. And so I think while I'm in this era in my life, I've been stuck in the uncertainty and what's next. And that can be really daunting at times. But I believe that there is a path for me, and it's going to be a great one because I know my values, I know my passions, and I stay true to them. And so I'm leaning into that and hoping that I find my next step and my next journey. And I believe that it'll be just as great.
What characteristics, qualities do you notice in other leaders?
Whenever I look to other individuals and I see just like, man, this person is truly a leader. It's whenever they are empathetic, they are giving, they're graceful, they're humble, and they're accountable. And they're willing to be vulnerable, even during the hardest times, because that's whenever it counts the most. I've seen a lot of great leaders through my time at Lindsay, and I think some of the significant ones is Dean Schmidt and Natalie Vickus. They taught me a lot through my intro to leadership class, and I always admire them, and I hope to be half of the person they are.
You're listening to the Lindsay Wilson View from the Hill podcast. I'm Dwayne Bonifer in the Lindsay Wilson Office of Public Relations. I'm talking to the 3 Lindsay Wilson students who received the top leadership awards at this year's L3 Student Leadership Banquet. You can read more about them in the news section of the Lindsay Wilson website, and that URL is lindsay.edu/news. Now let's get back to my conversation with Lindsay Wilson's L3 honorees. Reilly Wells has one more year as a Lindsay Wilson College undergraduate, as she plans to graduate in 2026. Reilly says that her L3 award was also unexpected.
Oh, it's literally an honor. I never thought that in a million years that I would even be nominated, let alone actually be in the top 3. It's just, when you are, I guess, quote unquote, a true leader, you don't really think that other people, you're not looking for it to be recognized. And I think that is something that I've always kind of held close to my heart. Like, I'm not doing it for others. I am doing it for others, but I'm not doing it for the recognition from others. And I just hope that I continue on to lead with purpose and with compassion and kindness, just like how they saw me when they recognized me. And I'm just so honored that they actually, even considered me. So it's awesome. I'm so grateful.
What is it about Lindsay Wilson College, the campus, the environment, the atmosphere that encourages you or has encouraged you to become a leader?
Honestly, it was kind of like the way that I was raised in a way. I have very determined and headstrong parents. So they very much kind of passed on the torch of, being that sort of person on campus for me. And I think that Lindsay is such a wonderful place for me to project my leadership style and my leadership skills because everybody knows each other. It's a very tight-knit, close campus. It's a community. And I think that because I get to know each and every single student out there, or I at least try to, it's not just more like a friendship, it's a family. And I think that because that we are so close-knit and it is like a family here, that we trust each other more and you have more opportunities to showcase that leadership because other people trust you. And I think that is just amazing because not a lot of campuses, provide those sort of opportunities. And I'm very thankful that Lindsay has provided those.
Who are some individuals in your life, both on campus and off campus, who've been influential in terms of being a leader, those qualities, those characteristics that you try to embody as a leader?
My grandparents, because, 2 completely different generations growing up and all that. And I think them just going on about life and the way that they view life, it's just so special in the way that they go about life. So I think, obviously my grandmother, she worked here, Nancy Sinclair, and then my pa, Donnie Wells, he is a bus driver here. So I think both of them they are respective leaders in their own right. And I think that both of them have led me to, be that sort of not beat around the bush, that very unique sort of leader. And that's what I would always say, that my leadership style is very unique, very me. And I don't think that you're ever going to meet someone like that. It's sort of like my parents as well. I would definitely say my parents. And then also, let's just throw a curveball in there. Let's say Julie Andrews. Julie Andrews is literally one of my idols. I think that she is just so graceful, so impactful, and the way that she has gone throughout life, because she's just so unproblematic. And I hope that I am just as unproblematic as her, because she is just stellar. I think that she's awesome, as everybody who I've mentioned as well.
In the L3 program, you have the quote by Ben Roethlisberger, the quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers of the National Football League. It says, leadership is something you earn, something you're chosen for. You can't come in yelling, I'm your leader. If it happens, it's because the other guys respect you. Why did you select that quote?
Well, we are a football household, let me tell you. Go Bengals, who day? So we love sports in our household. And I was looking through quotes, because when you fill out the Google form, it's just like, give a leadership quote. I can never think of one right off the top of my head, And so I was looking and I saw that one, and I read it before I even saw who spoke it. And I was like, wow, that's good. And then I saw who said it, which is Ben Roethlisberger. And I was like, wow, I think that that's just perfectly me, because it kind of ties in with every single aspect that I have of, it is earned. You can't just, bombard people with your presence. You have to show through hard work and ethic and morals, and just being a good friend and person. And I think that just symbolizes things, because I know that not a lot of people are sports people, but I think that a lot of the times that you can relate life to a football game or a basketball game, because everything is in quarters, everything, there's goals, there's certain goals. You have to beat a test or beat the opposing team. It's just, I think that it symbolizes a lot of different things, not just football. So I think that I could relate that a lot to my life, not just, the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm sorry. My cousin's husband is a big Steelers fan, so also a little nod to that for him as well.
When you notice someone who's a leader, what are the qualities, what are the characteristics that you notice? In other words, what makes for a good or effective leader, in your opinion?
If you asked me that question probably 3 years ago, I would have given you a completely different answer. I work at a summer camp that you have to put on a show for kids. You have to wear a mask, a persona almost. And I have definitely learned that over the last 2 years of working there. But what I've also learned is that true leaders work behind the scenes as well. They do have that, charisma, that, stage presence almost. And I think that, yeah, that is important, but also you have to back up with the work and, like I said, the ethic and all that. And so people who work behind the scenes, who are the silent heroes, that is what I recognize as a true leader, because there's just some people who are just so hardworking, and you don't really recognize that because they're not really spotlight material, or they don't even enjoy the spotlight. But I think that if you recognize the people who are, quietly working and putting in that effort, I give them a round of applause for that, because that is just so much more endearing and, like I said, applause worthy when they are recognized. And I think that's awesome. And I think that that's what a true leader is.
Those are the 3 Lindsey Wilson students who received the top honors at this year's L3 Student Leadership Banquet. Caitlin Higdon, Mia Weigel, and Reilly Wells. 3 very impressive young people who embody what it means to live, learn, and lead. You can read more about them in the news section of the Lindsey Wilson College website. And once again, that URL is lindsey.edu/news. And that's going to do it for this 15th edition of 2025's View from the Hill. View from the Hill is produced by Shelby Burton. She's also Lindsey Wilson's Assistant Director of Public Relations and Media Producer. You can tell us what you like or don't like about this podcast by firing off an email to us at news@lindsey.edu. Be sure to put podcast in the subject line. Also, be sure to encourage your friends, family members, neighbors, and co-workers to subscribe to View from the Hill, they can do it on Spotify and Apple Podcast, or they can do it on both. And we wouldn't mind it a single bit if you gave us a nice rating on either or maybe both of those platforms. You can also enjoy this podcast on the college's YouTube channel. To find this episode on YouTube or previous episodes, point your internet browser to youtube.com/LWC Public Relations and click on the podcast tab. Until our next edition, I'm Dwayne Bonifer in the Lindsey Wilson Office of Public Relations. Thanks so much for listening. So long, everybody, and have a nice day.